everybody, and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles, and on this episode, we're going to talk about the savior of AEW. And yeah, I know it's hyperbole, and it's really just a clickbait to get you to click on that thumbnail, but I did want to talk about Swerve Strickland and where I think he is career-wise and how I think he can be used in AEW to be the face of the company. Now, where the title might be a little harsh, saying he's the savior of AEW, he could be someone that's in a positive spin on AEW. We've seen them have a lot of negative press recently, basically from All In going forward. First with the CM Punk Jack Perry incident, which eventually led to CM Punk being fired. Jack Perry still is suspended. Unless he's one of the devils, then maybe he's not been suspended for a month. All the fallout from that, the dropping Collision ratings, which are nowhere near what they were when CM Punk was there. And this is not a knock on them firing CM Punk. This is just stating factual things that are happening. Also, their attendance, while I don't think the attendance itself is such an issue, the fact that they're putting 2,000 people in a 20,000 seat arena is what's making it look worse than it is. There are 100 promotions that would like to sell as many seats as AEW. Heck, there's probably 500 promotions that would like to sell as many seats as AEW. It's just a perception. If you put 2,000 people in a 2,000 seat arena that looks packed, it looks like there's more people there than that same 2,000 people in a 10,000 seat arena where you have to rope off half of the arena and you can't even shoot that side because it's empty. So that's an issue I think they could easily rectify by going to a little bit smaller buildings. But what I really think could help is if they have a transcendent figure. And this is where Swerve Strickland comes in, because I do believe he has all the tools and earmarkings to be that guy. We're coming off a fantastic feud he just had with Hangman Adam Page, where he basically came out on top of the feud, looked better coming out of it, proved that he's on the level of a guy that was a former world champion there, and seemed to turn the fans in his favor while being a heel. This feud is kind of what made me think of making this video, and it's for this specific reason. This feud reminded me of the Bret Hart-Steve Austin feud in 96 and early 97, and while Hangman Page may not be as revered as Bret Hart, he does hold that similar role in AEW where he's considered a top guy. He might not be the guy. I think the guy there is Moxley, but he has a similar role. An established main eventer going up against an upstart. And this is where the comparison I think is most apt, because I compare Swerve Strickland to Stone Cold Steve Austin. I think what we are seeing right now is post King of the Ring Steve Austin leading up to WrestleMania 14 Steve Austin, where he finally won the championship. And I think that's where we are with Swerve Strickland. You may think I'm giving Swerve more credit than he deserves, but let me remind you of this. For those of us that are old enough to remember Stone Cold before he was Stone Cold, before he was a ringmaster, when he was just stunning Steve Austin. And everybody saw it. It may have been a totally different character than what he eventually evolved into, but the potential was seen basically from his start in wrestling. He won Rookie of the Year, he won TV championships, tag championships, US championships, pretty much every championship you could win in WCW without winning the World Championship. And this is where I compare Swerve to Steve, because reminiscing about the Stunning Steve era reminded me of Swerve Strickland's rise. Some of you may remember his stint in NXT as Isaiah Swerve Scott, where he was a North American champion and basically the best part of their show. A guy that seemed destined to be called up to the main roster and become a major star in the WWE, but for whatever reason was let go of. Going even further back, you may remember his stint in Lucha Underground as Killshot, where he may not have been the focal point of the company, but he did put some of the damnedest matches they ever had on there. His match with AR Fox is one of the best Lucha Underground matches there is. Those two have a chemistry together that very few people have, and they always put on great matches. And here's where I really think the comparison to Steve Austin and Swerve Strickland is most apt. Even before that, Swerve was kind of the king of the indies. While at the time he was doing this, unlike Steve Austin, who had world class in WCW, Swerve had to make his name other ways. He had to come up through CZW. He had to prove his worth on Wrestle Circus. He had to pretty much put Defy on the map. Even going back to Maryland Championship Wrestling days, he was always a guy that was given the ball and pretty much ran with it. Much like Steve Austin. Early in his career, everyone could see he was a future superstar. It may have taken Steve Austin a little while to get to the final form, just like I think Swerve Strickland did. But I do think Swerve is going to get there. I think Swerve, and I know this is a huge comparison, and we're talking about one of the biggest stars in the history of wrestling, but if AEW plays their cards right, Swerve could be their Steve Austin. Swerve can usher in their version of the Attitude Era, this whatever Swerve Strickland era is. He's got that charisma. He's got that talent. There's not a tool that Swerve doesn't have in his tool bag to become a major star. He just needs someone to give him that opportunity. And this is where I think his WrestleMania 14 moment would be him being the guy that beats MJF. Now, MJF losing the belt may have got accelerated. He's dealing with some injuries. I don't know how much is kayfabe, how much is true. I imagine he is pretty beat up. AEW does have a more grueling style of wrestling, a more physically demanding style, and being the focal point of the company puts a lot of wear and tear on you. I think Swerve beating MJF puts him firmly in that same role where Steve Austin beat Shawn Michaels. And I know probably half of you that are watching this are thinking I'm absolutely insane, but come back in 3 years when he's there and he's the face of their company, and then tell me I'm crazy then. Because once he beats MJF, that's when you really start putting the rocket on. You have him run through the gauntlet of the ex-world champions. You have him going up against Kenny Omega and beating Kenny Omega. You have him against Chris Jericho and beating Chris Jericho. You have him go against the big boss of AEW, the guy that I think is the ace of AEW right now and definitely deserves to be that, Jon Moxley. You have him beat Jon Moxley, which could be a violent masterpiece when you put these two together. Moxley, to me, feels like AEW's Undertaker, where basically he's always going to be in the main event. He's always there if you need a champion to fill in for any situation, whether it's somebody getting suspended, somebody having an injury. You just put Mox in the match, Mox wins. No one bats an eye because he's that believable. If you have Swerve Strickland beat Jon Moxley in a violent match where Jon Moxley shines, you're only going to add to what Swerve is, and you don't necessarily take that much away from Moxley because short of jobbing Moxley out every week for months in a row, you're not going to take away what he's built up. To me, I think if we make it through 2024 without Swerve Strickland winning the championship, barring a major injury, I think AEW is doing themselves a major disservice because you have a guy that's ready to be the guy, and he could take your business into places it hasn't been before, raise the profile, all while building himself up, much like Steve Austin did in the Attitude Era. And I know I keep going back to that comparison, but I think he has that much potential to be that big of a game changer in AEW. But that's my opinion of it. Let me know what you think. Do you think Swerve Strickland can be a game changer? Do you think I'm totally wrong? Do you see nothing in him? Let me know down here in the comments. While you're there, smash that like button, share the video, subscribe if you haven't. If you see where it says join, that's how you become a channel member. Becoming a channel member definitely helps us out here. And if you made it to the end, give me your Prince Nana in the comments because we didn't bring him up, and we know he adds so much to the Swerve Strickland package with his dance. It's so great, and I know it's terrible right now because I'm not standing up to move with it. But anyway, give me a Prince Nana because we didn't even bring Nana up, and he adds so much to the character. Put that down here in the comments. With all that being said, my name is George Coles, and this has been another Heel Heat video.